Number 9. Speedy tank delivery. The Cold War presented a whole new set of hypothetical challenges to the US military, including the possible need to deliver masses of troops to front lines in a hurry. And they had to be ready to do this without knowing exactly where the front lines would be. Experts identified a handful of so-called potential flashpoints that had a light military presence but would need backup if things got violent with an enemy. To fill this gap, so to speak, the plan was to rush airborne soldiers and Marines where they were needed. In the meantime, follow-on forces would be deployed and would arrive in the following days. To ensure speedy delivery, the Air Force was equipped with C-130 Hercules cargo planes that were capable of dropping tanks and heavy equipment while flying just a few feet above the ground at 150 miles per hour. In places where planes couldn't safely land or take off, the low-altitude parachute extraction system was employed. It was used in several battles during the Vietnam War following its development in 1964. Now, typically, tanks are no longer dropped from planes, but it does happen occasionally. One example is the Stryker Armored Personnel Carrier, which is sometimes dropped in Alaska. Number 8. Cold water conditioning. Anyone who wants to become a Navy SEAL will have to complete something called cold water conditioning. It's part of a special training regimen that all aspiring SEALs undergo, known as Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL or BUDS training. Nicknamed surf torture, it's about as insufferable as it sounds. BUDS is one of the most physically demanding training programs in the entire world. One of its main requirements is to become accustomed to uncomfortably cold and dangerous temperatures. During surf torture, candidates are required to lie on their back in about 6 inches of water with their arms linked. They have to stay this way for an undetermined amount of time. This exercise takes place at Silver Strand Beach in San Diego, which is infamous for its chilly nighttime breezes. Instructors monitor participants using hypothermia charts and core temperature scans, just in case. But the true test comes when trainees are required to exit the water and must stand facing the ocean in their wet clothes for yet another undetermined length of time. This is obviously a major physical challenge that pushes the human body to its limits, but it's also just as much as a test of mental strength and endurance. It's beyond intense, to say the least. Number 7. Winter combat training. It's customary for militaries around the world to prepare for a variety of different environments, because sometimes you never know what kind of places battle will lead you into, and you can't simply reschedule the event for more convenient conditions. Every winter, more than 200 Rangers from the South Korean Army's Special Warfare Command endure 10 days of brutal combat training in the mountains of Pyeongchang, roughly 112 miles east of Seoul. The training takes place in temperatures as low as -22 degrees Fahrenheit to ensure that soldiers are ready for live missions in the freezing cold. And they have to do a lot more than withstand frigid conditions. Soldiers are required to swim in icy water and perform various exercises in the snow, often while shirtless. The activities include gymnastics, sprinting, tactical skiing with rifles, and other grueling physical exercise. As I said before, winter weather training isn't unique to Korea. Soldiers in the Chinese military undergo similar exercises while half-dressed along the country's northern border with Russia, in temperatures as low as -4 degrees Fahrenheit. They train with traditional Chinese swords, throw snow and ice-cold water at each other, and run in shin-deep snow. In recent years, the US Marines have stepped up their winter weather training in response to mounting prospects of warfare against Russia, North Korea, and China. The training takes place roughly 8,000 feet above sea level at the Marine Mountain Warfare Training Center in the Sierra Nevada mountains. The soldiers, many of whom have never experienced snow in their lives, participate in mock battles and other training in unforgiving conditions such as chest-deep snow, thin air, blizzards, and this probably goes without saying, below freezing temperatures. Number 6. Battle Stations 21. The missile destroyer USS Traer in Great Lakes, Illinois has never been deployed, used in combat, or even gone to sea. Instead, the 210-foot-long Navy vessel is used for Battle Stations 21, a live immersive training simulation that prepares soldiers for disasters at sea. 38,000 recruits undergo the program every year. Engineers deliberately sink the ship in a series of crises based on real-life events, while soldiers fight to save it during the 12-hour challenge, which happens overnight. This is the final portion of the basic training that recruits must complete to become sailors. The test exposes participants to the sights, sounds, and smells they would encounter during an emergency at sea, including fire, thick smoke, flooding, bursted pipes, alarms, broken and twisted wood and metal, debris, and even a breeze and seagulls. Eerily lifelike mannequins representing injured fellow sailors groan in pain and discomfort throughout the exercise. Recruits must rescue the mannequins and save heavy rounds of ammunition while effectively and efficiently responding to everything else around them that's going wrong. They're graded based on the responses to their circumstances. Do you think you'd have what it takes to pass Battle Stations 21 or any of the other crazy exercises on today's list? Let us know in the comments below, but first, be sure to subscribe. Number 5. U.S. Marine Corps Scout Sniper School. U.S. Marine Corps snipers are world famous for their extraordinary sharpshooting skills. To achieve this elite title, they undergo rigorous training with requirements that extend far beyond being a skilled shot. There are less than 300 active U.S. Marine Corps snipers at any given time. Many candidates fail the training. The minimum requirements to even be considered for the program include superior intelligence and decision-making skills, near-perfect physical fitness, and expert rifle skills. The highly demanding 2-month course comes with both classroom and physical training, including daily practice on the firing range, where recruits learn to shoot targets as far as 3,000 feet away. Superior marksmanship requires a second-nature understanding of complex ballistics principles. In other words, it's something that the average person just doesn't get. It's something that a person either picks up on naturally or not at all. In addition to that, students must master a plethora of other skills, including land navigation, observation, and stalking. Speaking with the Department of Defense in 2019, Instructor Sergeant Brandon Chu explained in his own words that as a scout sniper, we're going to be constantly tired, fatigued, dehydrated, probably cold, for sure wet, and always hungry. He also said that recruits must consistently perform well from day one of their training, or they will fail the course. A scout sniper must be ready for extremely uncomfortable and dangerous situations, such as lying outdoors in the same position for hours or days at a time while observing and/or hiding from the enemy. One major test entails stalking 3,281 feet down a grassy open range without being seen by instructors who are perched nearby with scopes. At the same time, the participant must also elude foot soldiers, whose sole task is to find the sniper. A candidate can only fail this test a certain number of times before they wash out of the program. Number 4. Belarus Special Forces Training. Belarus is informally known as Europe's last true dictatorship. The country has a reputation for allegedly refusing to modernize, especially when it comes to its heavily militaristic culture and the shocking tactics that recruits have to endure to become elite Red Beret soldiers. The regimen entails a brutal series of tests that very few candidates pass, and which are designed to push participants' physical and mental boundaries to their absolute limits. On average, it takes 5 tries to pass the training. The challenges include live one-on-one fighting, numerous extreme obstacle courses, withstanding copious amounts of smoke, storming a high-rise building, jumping over a fire and smoke bombs, and various other feats of strength and demonstrations of agility. These tests are done with few to no safety precautions in place. And if you think that making the cut means that the torture is over, think again. The Belarusians' military culture is heavily influenced by Orthodox Christianity, Soviet-style nationalism, and a pagan holiday called Malsenitsa. To mark important occasions, the Red Berets jump into freezing water, hold formation in the freezing cold, and engage in numerous other crazy activities like log throwing and placing concrete chests on recruits' chests and breaking them with sledgehammers. Not exactly my idea of a traditional holiday celebration. Number 3. Jungle Operations Training. Only 60 to 70% of the trainees who enter the US Army 25th Infantry Division's 20-day jungle operations training course make it all the way through. The rest end up dropping out. The program takes place on the Hawaiian island of Oahu at the Schofield Barracks. It became fully operational in 2013. It is the first training regiment of its type after the Army took a decades-long hiatus from any focus on jungle warfare preparation. In fact, so much time had passed since the Army had last operated a jungle training program, JOTC instructors in training had to basically learn the curriculum from scratch by using old training manuals and attending jungle military schools in tropical places like Brazil and Brunei. JOTC trainees spend the entire course in the jungle, where even those in top-notch physical shape face extraordinary challenges from their surroundings. The terrain is steep and rugged, and as course instructor Captain Matthew Jones pointed out, if you get wet the first day, you'll be wet for the next 5 days. It wears on you. And getting wet isn't just tiring, it can also be deadly. Soldiers must keep their feet as dry as possible or they won't heal from their injuries, and even the smallest cut could become fatally infected. The course begins with teaching recruits the basics of jungle survival, like how to build shelter with materials provided by nature, acquiring food and water, and navigating through water and dense vegetation. Next, they focus on squad tactics and communication, which are more complicated in the jungle than they are in more open settings due to limited room for movement and weak radio signals. During the final week, participants focus on operating as a platoon, while instructors observe and grade them. Getting through it requires a combination of physical fitness and the right attitude. In the words of instructor and Staff Sergeant Michael Johnson, soldiers will either find their toughness or they won't, but the jungle doesn't care either way. Number 2. The Road to Heaven. The road to heaven is anything but heavenly, as you're about to learn. In fact, traveling down it comes with an inevitable need for first aid care. It's the final stage of an intensive 9-week amphibious training program for the Taiwanese Marine Corps. The challenge, which is designed to simulate a battle on a rocky or coral-covered coastline, involves crawling down a 164-foot path of jagged coral, wearing only shorts while stopping 10 times along the way to perform a series of exercises. Candidates must pass the test in order to become frogmen, as the elite soldiers of the Amphibious Reconnaissance and Patrol Unit are nicknamed. This make-or-break challenge starts by falling from standing to a plank position. Then participants crawl along the rocky path, traveling on the points of their elbows and knees and wriggling along with their hands behind their backs. As if the challenge wasn't excruciating enough to begin with, salty water is poured into their open wounds along the way. The most agile candidates complete the course in 15 to 20 minutes. If an instructor is unhappy with a recruit's performance, they have the authority to send the individual back to the beginning and make them perform the entire thing all over again, from start to finish. Soldiers' families cheer them on from the sidelines, often crying as they watch their loved one bleed from their injuries while struggling over the sharp, uneven terrain. Aside from their supporters' encouragement, candidates must rely on sheer determination to make it to the finish line of this torturous test of strength and willpower. Number 1. The Masakumta. In order to become a combat soldier for the Israeli Defense Forces, recruits are required to complete an overnight trek called the Masakumta or Beret March. It can be anywhere from 20 to 57 miles long. The first step to becoming an IDF combat soldier is to get through basic training, which lasts for 4 months and ends with a march and a swearing-in ceremony. Then recruits move on to advanced training, where they're assigned to a brigade. They train from anywhere from 4 months to a year, depending on the needs of their unit. At the end of their advanced training, recruits must complete the Masakumta, which comes after a slightly less grueling preparation march called the Makin Masakumta. Participants walk silently and side by side in 2 single-file lines, traveling at a brisk pace of somewhere between 3.7 and 6.7 miles per hour. Along the way, they trek up many steep inclines. Each soldier wears full battle gear throughout the entire journey. This includes their weapon, vest, water packs, stretchers, and more. This is a rain or shine event which often happens in wildly uncomfortable weather, including heavy downpours and scorching heat. After finishing the march, the participants attend a ceremony where they receive their unit's distinctly colored beret. They are now officially IDF combat soldiers. In addition to being a test of commitment, the Masakumta measures a soldier's readiness for battle. The philosophy behind the march is that combat can happen in locations and circumstances that require soldiers to travel long distances on foot, so they need to be prepared for this and other possibilities that warrant a unit of physically fit, highly trained troops who also have what it takes mentally to endure extremely uncomfortable conditions. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn about more crazy military exercises, let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!